Here with us now is the Foundation for Defense of Democracy Senior Fellow and former UK Ambassador Edmund Fitton-Brown. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you. So let's talk about this because, you know, Iran's saying, look, we've seen this before. We've played this card. Secondary sanctions could backfire if countries that rely on Iranian oil retaliate or refuse to comply. That is one piece of this. But do you think the U.S. can enforce them without hurting its own interests?
Well, with sanctions, you always have to accept a little bit of pain to your own interests. So, and this is the main equation with the Iranians has always been that they feel they can take more pain than the US can. But I think this is the right policy. I think the naval blockade is an essential part of it. So preventing the Iranians from exporting their oil. And at the moment, their oil exports are thought to be down maybe 90%. So they're being absolutely starved of revenue. If you then compound that with secondary sanctions, and the key people to target here are the Chinese, because the Chinese have been the main sort of lifeline for the Iranian economy. It's also interesting that the UAE has explicitly signed up to this. The UAE has cut off its trade and its financial dealings with Iran. So if the US is willing to tackle China over this, I think that the policy can succeed. But it will take time. There is an impatience in America to see results in a matter of weeks. You may have to sustain this pressure for months.
You know, Iran says that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and the Trump administration wants the sanctions to force Iran to fully reopen it. But Trump is also saying that ships are moving through. So we've got this whole battle over the strait going on, too. Let's listen to this.
The Treasury Secretary says that we could see the most impactful sanctions on Iran this week. When will they come, and what else could be sanctioned on Iran?
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. Right now, the strait is open. A lot of boats are coming through.
All right. So what do you think open actually means?
Well, I think we can sort of thread the needle and say it's partially open or mainly closed is the reality. The fact is that the Strait of Hormuz is a little bit complicated. You have two channels. There's a northern channel that hugs the Iranian coastline, southern channel that hugs the Omani coastline, and some ships are getting through the Omani channel. The problem, of course, is that the Iranians are capable of hitting ships that are in the Omani channel, and they've shown that they can do so. And so part of the problem with the strait, it's not that it's impossible to get through it. It's that you're taking a risk each time that you do. And both shipping companies and insurance companies are risk averse.
Yeah, and the Treasury Secretary is saying that the administration believes the blockade and new sanctions will actually put enough pressure on Iran to bring down the regime entirely. Let's listen to that.
It is a 1-2 punch. We have the blockade, and we are going to have the toughest sanctions in history. And I will tell you, this will work. It worked in Venezuela once we put up the blockade. It is working in Cuba right now, and it is going to work in Iran, and we are going to collapse this regime.
But Iran's reaction is that it has survived sanctions before, and some analysts say that Tehran fears surrendering to U.S. demands even more than economic pain. What do you think? I mean, people are talking about a blind spot here for the administration. How do you see it?
Well, if you're a hardline member of the Iranian regime, you're kind of in a life and death situation.
Right.
Because the regime falls, you're dead. So there's a very, very strong incentive for the IRGC and the various people who are at the top of that regime to hold on and hang tough. They don't really have a choice. If they make major compromises with the US, that would look like weakness, and that weakness would then itself very likely lead to a resumption of popular protests. We must remind people that, of course, there were very severe popular protests in Iran at the end of last year and in the first half of January this year, and there were literally millions of people out on the streets. At one point, it did look as if they might almost reach a tipping point where the people would actually take the country over from the streets. The Iranian regime then killed about 40,000 people. They successfully quashed the protests, but the discontent remains. And I think what Secretary Bessent is saying is that if the US can put enough economic pressure on the Iranians, it will eventually bring those people back out onto the streets again, and that next time they may succeed in actually collapsing the regime. But that may take time, and it may be a very bloody process. And of course, it's an interesting question of whether the United States and indeed Israel can contribute to that regime change, as was on the table earlier this year.
Very, very interesting the way this is going to play out. And also, I want to get your take on something else. Trump says that he wants to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un again, and he believes their personal relationship actually gives him an advantage in this. Let's listen to that.
I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. As you know, you've seen. He didn't like Biden. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like anybody, but he likes me.
So likability apparently is there. Trump also scaled back some military exercises with South Korea just this week, and that helped to get Kim to the table the first time, but it didn't lead to taking down the nuclear program. So do you think it would work this time around?
Well, you can't completely rule it out, and I think engagement is a good thing. One of President Trump's great strengths is this sort of personal engagement in which he's willing to invest a lot of time and effort. So there's a good side to this. But what is really important is that he doesn't lose sight of who our friends are. There's no doubt that South Korea are our friends. They're important allies in the region. And if you hope to maintain any kind of policy that contains Russia, that contains China, and the various strategic adversaries of the US, and including North Korea, then you must make sure that you maintain close and trusting relations with South Korea. Now, in that context, meeting with Kim and explaining to him that eventually he is going to have to adopt a less confrontational approach with the outside world. Otherwise, North Korea is destined just to stagnate and ultimately fail. That's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. So I think we should hope that the president is going to use his personal capital to make changes in North Korea that have not been achievable under other administrations.
Interesting. All right. It's very good to get your take. Foundation for Defense of Democracy Senior Fellow Edmund Fitton-Brown. We appreciate your time and being on the show. Thanks.
Most welcome.
All right.